SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello friends, we are discussing with the market based instruments for controlling the pollution level. So today we will be discussing the role of subsidies or how subsidy can be helpful in controlling the pollution level. So we will be discussing the very definition of subsidy, then we will be discussing what is the role of subsidies and how it is used as an incentive in controlling the pollutions. We will be discussing the mechanisms in details with suitable examples, and then it is followed by the advantages and limitations of this very instrument, that is subsidy. And finally, we will be talking about a hybrid form of subsidy, that is known as the deposit refund systems. So, let us discuss with the first one, that is subsidy. So, what is the meaning of subsidy? For a layman, you are saying it is a kind of incentive or benefit that is given, and this generally this incentive is given in form of grants or cash, or you can say the tax rebate if it is a case of the pollutions. Okay? And these subsidies are provided by a authority or a regulating body or a state body. And obviously, this kind of incentives are given in order to help the particular industry or businessman who are doing some externalities or who are producing some kind of externalities, and this will be helping them to keep the price of this commodity or services whatever they are producing at a low level. And the second thing is that it can improve the supply of that commodity or the service in question. And moreover, when you are talking about the reduction of pollutions, then this subsidy can also be an instrument in incentivizing the polluting industry or polluting farm to reduce the pollution level. We can take an example. Suppose say we are talking about the difference between the green and clean sources of energy, and obviously we are emphasizing the green sources of energy nowadays. And that is why in order to promote more green sources of energy production, we need to actually provide some kind of incentive to those producers who are producing these green energies. And again, if you are providing these incentives, then obviously it will be used as a kind of incentive for changing the very behavior and the mode of the production. And that is why it is likely that the conventional producers, they can be shifted to the green technologies, and hence we can control the pollution level. So, that is how in a layman sense what is subsidy and what is the role of subsidy in promoting the improved quality. So, after understanding this, let us understand what is the mechanisms of the subsidy, how this subsidy is working in improving the products and services and giving a kind of societal desirable output and price level. So, here so far this mechanism is concerned, we are here focusing on the pollution fee, right. We are comparing with the pollution fee, then we will be talking with about the subsidy. So, if you are talking about this pollution fee or sometimes a special case pre-given fee, then this mechanisms of this pollution fee is based on the logic that to put a price on the environmental assets, right. Why? Because pollution is emitted and the damage is done in the environmental assets itself. But in case of the second instrument, that is subsidy, the mechanisms is here different. In the first case, we are taxing on the environmental assets where pollution is emitted, right, and this price is to be paid by the polluter agency itself. But in case of this subsidy, this is not happening. The mechanism is a bit different here. So, what is the difference? Here the regulating authority or the public authority who is in charge of controlling or monitoring the pollutions. So, they are going to pay a kind of incentive, maybe grant or grant or a cash or some tax rebate, right, and they are going to pay to this polluting industry or polluting farm. Why? Because when these polluting farms or polluting industries, they are trying to reduce the emissions level or pollution levels. For each units of emission levels it is reduced, they are these agencies or these regulating bodies, they are providing kind of incentives to these polluting industries. But obviously for that reason we need to see the benchmark of the level of pollutions. So, before doing this exercise we need to actually the polluting authority, sorry, the regulating authority is going to see and set what is the benchmark level of emissions at that current time. So, based on this, taking this as a base mark or a benchmark, we need to actually reduce the emissions level, and the greater the emission level it is reduced by the farm itself, then the incentives will be more and more. So, in this context this subsidy is acting as a reward for the polluting agencies, because if they are reducing these emissions then obviously they will be getting a kind of revenue in form of subsidy, right. So, in this context you can say this reward or this subsidy, getting subsidy or providing subsidy to the polluting industries can be interpreted as an opportunity cost. Why opportunity cost? Because if the industries, polluting industries, if they are not going to reduce the pollutions, then obviously they need to pay the tax for it. And if they are reducing the pollution, then obviously they will be getting a kind of reward, that is subsidy. So, this subsidy can be interpreted as the opportunity cost when this particular polluting industries it is generating the pollutions and foregoing the subsidy payments. And moreover, this emission reduction, it is also acting as an incentives, right, in case of the positive externalities. So, we talked about two types of externalities, one is negative externalities. In negative externalities, we are saying this tax is a suitable measure, taxing just like a pollution tax. But in case of this positive externalities, this subsidy can be useful as an instrument for controlling the pollutions. So, so that is why you can say this in case of this emission reductions, this externality is acting as a positive instrument for controlling the externality itself. And in this case, in case of this positive externality, what happens? It is very likely that the market will be producing less than the socially efficient level of production, right. But in case of positive externality, it is just the reverse one. There the more production will happen in comparison to the socially efficient level of productions, right. So, in case of positive externalities where the actual level of production is less than the socially efficient level of production, some kind of intervention from the government is required, and it is in terms of the any kind of subsidy. So, providing a subsidy in this case, it will be trying to restore the point or condition of social efficient level of productions, and this social level of socially efficient level of production can be restored by the provision of any kind of subsidy, like your direct cash payment to the polluting agencies, or you can say getting the tax rebate, or in form of the subsidized inputs. Okay. And therefore, whatever may be the mechanisms of these subsidies, maybe it is the direct cash payment, or it is the tax rebate, or it is the subsidized input, each of them these instruments, they are providing incentive to the farms to reduce their level of pollutions, right, and that is why they can actually adapt for green production or greener sources of energies in this example. So, based on this subsidy context, that we are saying it is acting as an incentives, right, to control the production pollution level. We can have two examples in this context. The first example we are talking about the abatement subsidies. So, what is abatement subsidies? That means when the farm is reducing the level of emissions and getting some subsidy that is provided by the government or regulating agencies, right. So, what is the conditions here? The condition is that the regulator here, the regulating authority or regulator here, it is paying the polluter, right, per ton of emissions that the industry or the farm is reducing from its benchmark level. So, in this context, let us assume that the farm's current level or benchmark level of emissions is set, right, and that is 10 tons of emission per month. So, for every month it is producing, the farm is producing 10 tons of emissions, and we are taking the data of the current month, right. And the farm is asked that if you are going to reduce the emission level every month, then for every unit of reduction in emissions, you will be getting 120 rupees as incentives or as rewards, right. So, if the farm is reducing from 10 tons of emissions to 9 tons, then obviously the farm is going to get 120 rupees per ton per month, right. But the thing is that the question is how this subsidy is going to reduce the pollutions, right, that we need to explain. So, we can take an example, numerical examples. So, let us say we talked about that the farm is now set its has set its benchmark level of pollution, that is 10 tons of emissions per month, right. So, that means if the farm is going to produce the same level of emissions, that is 10 tons in the next month, then it has not abated anything, it has not reduced any pollution level. That is why the total abatement cost would be 0 for the farm. So, when there is no reduction in the emissions, then what will happen? Then obviously the farm will not get any amount of subsidy. So, that is why we are saying the total subsidy for the 10 tons of emissions is 0, right. So, what is the total one? The grand total is calculated. So, the total subsidy minus the total abatement cost. So, here we are finding the numbers in this column. So, this is the total subsidy, again 0, and the total abatement cost is 0. So, obviously it is 0. But in the next month, suppose say the farm has reduced its emission level to by 1 unit, that is right now it is producing 9 units. So, its marginal abatement cost for reducing this 1 unit of emissions, let us say it is 15 rupees, right. So, what is the total abatement? Obviously, here for the first unit the marginal is equivalent to the total. So, it is also 15 rupees. So, what is the subsidy that the farm will be getting by reducing 1 unit of its emissions? So, that is it is promised that the regulating authority it would be paying 120 rupees for every reduction in the emission. So, that is why it will be getting 120 rupees. So, now we will be saying what is the total revenues that the farm is getting. The grand total revenue the farm is getting is this is 120 rupees, that is total subsidy, and however the farm is investing 15 rupees for abating or reducing 1 unit of emissions. So, now the total revenues it will be getting is 120 minus this 15 rupees is 105, right. So, likewise suppose say if the farm can reduce its emission level from 10 to let us say 8, then similarly we are saying for reducing the emissions by 2 units, that is up to 8th unit. So, what is the marginal abatement cost here for reducing the 3rd unit? So, this is 30. So, what is the total abatement cost? So, it will be total is the summation of this. So, it is 45 now, right. This is 30 plus 15 is 45. So, 45 rupees is the total abatement cost for reducing the third unit of emissions, and when it is reducing 3 units of emissions, then obviously it will be getting the subsidy amount of 3 multiplied by 1. So, it is 2 units now, it has been reduced by 2 units. So, this total subsidy will be 120 rupees per unit, and how many units it has reduced? 9 and 8, 2. So, it is 2. So, for this it is 120 into 2 is 240 rupees. So, the total subsidy the farm is going to get is 240 rupees. So, likewise we need to see that what is the grand total of revenues the farm is going to get. So, what is the amount here? So, here we will be saying the total subsidy is 240, and what is the total abatement cost for reducing these 2 units? This is 45. So, 240 minus 45 is 195, and likewise you can calculate for if the farm is going to reduce its pollution to 0 from 10 tons per month to 0 ton per month. If it is so, then the farm is obviously going to invest and spend, and its abatement cost for making this emissions to 0 is 1230, right. So, what is the total subsidy? It will be finding 120 for 10th, it is 120 multiplied 10, so it is 1200, right. So, what is the total revenue? So, it will be 1200 minus 1230 equal to minus 30 here, right. So, likewise you can say, see that whether it is wiser on the part of the polluting industry or farm to continue to reduce its emission level and get the subsidy or not. So, to what extent the farm can continue reducing its emission level and it will be getting the subsidy and generating the revenue, you can check it from this grand total revenue that the farm is getting. So, this column you can check total subsidy minus the total abatement cost. So, here you need to see that farm will be trying to maximize these numbers, right. So, at which level of emissions this number is maximized? So, obviously it is 345. So, that means corresponding to the fourth. So, if the farm is going to produce 4 units, 4 tons of emissions per month, then its grand total of revenues will be maximized. So, that means the farm will be considering to reduce this much of emissions and will be considering to generate 4 tons of emissions per month, and by doing so it will be maximizing the total revenue from abatement cost and the subsidy as well. So, likewise we can take another example. So, here let us take the example is a bit different here, and here let us take the case of renewable energy, right. So, among this renewable energy we can take any source like wind power. So, now we are considering wind power with the traditional coal farms for producing energy, right. So, now the case is that if the government needs to see that this wind power production is competitive with respect to the conventional sources of energy producer, then the subsidy can be one of the incentives for making this wind power more competitive with respect to your traditional forms of energy production, right. So, in this case we can take these subsidies in the emission reductions, right, which can be explained in terms of a graphical manner. So, now we can discuss that how to find the equilibrium level of production price. So, obviously it is the marginal benefit it is given, and the marginal cost, private marginal cost or marginal cost you are saying, right, that is given. So, the intersection point of this marginal benefit curve and the marginal cost curve, this is at E, right. So, given this marginal cost and private marginal benefit, here the industry or the farm here, it will be producing the output, that is QM level of output, right. And what is the price for it? This is the PM price. So, at PM price, QM level of production, that is the green production, green energy production will be continued. But however, if you see, this is the marginal benefit, okay, but we have not taken into account what is the benefit that the society is getting. So, this is the marginal benefit, is the benefit that the private producer or the producing unit of this energy green energy farm it is getting, but we have not taken into account what the society is getting in terms of benefits. So, if you are including this societal benefits, then this marginal benefit will be more, right. So, how to take this? So, here in order to find the socially efficient level of production, right, what do we need to see? We need to see that this marginal benefit must be equivalent to the marginal social benefit, but here we are finding this marginal social benefit is greater than the marginal benefit, right. So, because these two are not equivalent, what we need to do, that this marginal benefit must be including the case of externalities in order to make these two with equivalent to the marginal social benefit, right. So, what we have done here, then in order to find this and this is the level, the condition is that when this marginal social benefit is equivalent to your marginal benefit, then we are saying the socially optimum level of output and production is happening, right. So, what we are doing, that we need to actually see where is the marginal social benefit. What we are doing? We are including, right, this externality with the marginal benefit. So, let us say this is the marginal benefit, right. Here we are adding this externality level. Now, we are getting the true benefits that the society is getting from the production of this output. So, it is represented in terms of marginal social benefit, right. So, now we can find out what is the socially efficient level of production. So, now we are getting a new demand curve in terms of marginal social benefit, and your supply curve is this one, right. So, the intersection point at E star, we are having this production level, that is OQ star. So, this OQ star is now said to be the socially efficient level of production at what price? That is OP price. So, earlier if you are not taken into if we are not taking this externality into account, at that point of time the output level, total output level produced was QM and the price charge is OPM, right. But after taking into account this externalities, now the production has increased, right. So, from this you can say both the quantity produced as well as price charged for the production, unit of production, it has gone up, okay. So, now we are considering that what is the positive externality here. So, here the positive externalities related to this production is defined as the ES, E star S. So, this is the positive externalities, and our objective is that in order to, hence this is a positive externality, the policy, the regulator must be giving this much of subsidy to the green farm industry, right. So, this externalities would be equivalent to your subsidy. E star S is equivalent to this P star PS is the subsidy level, okay. So, the positive externalities that is related to this level of production is defined here E star S, and this is also regarded as the subsidy because this amount is equivalent to your subsidy amount that must be paid in order to internalize these externalities. So, now what is the total amount of subsidy that the farm will be getting? So, this is the rectangle area. So, this rectangle area is the PS AC P star, right. So, that we can actually repeat here. This is the quantity of output that we are just repeating the previous graphs. Okay. So, here we are taking into account the price and cost. This is your marginal benefit that we have taken into account, and this is the marginal cost, right. What we are saying that there is externality, that is why marginal benefit will be somehow here reflecting the marginal social benefit. Okay. So, now what you are saying that this marginal benefit and social benefit must be equivalent. So, how we are going to make it equivalent? If you are going to, what is the difference? The difference between marginal social benefit and marginal benefit is this much, right. So, now the producer must be getting this amount of subsidy. So, this is your marginal cost when subsidy is included, is provided. So, this PMC plus subsidy is reflected by this line. Okay. So, this is your E. Now, this is E star, corresponding to this is PM. Now, it is known as the P star level of price. Okay. Initially, this is QM and this is Q star. Okay. This is M and this is. So, now you are having the new supply curve, that is marginal cost plus your subsidy. So, this supply curve plus your marginal demand curve, we are getting a new equilibrium here. This is S, corresponding to this the price level is PS. Okay. So, what is the total amount of subsidy that the farm will be getting? Obviously, it is PS, this line PS, S, E and PS, S, this E star and P star. So, this rectangle area is the total subsidy amount that the farm is going to get, right. So, as a result, when the farm is getting this subsidy, as a result, then obviously what will happen? Your marginal cost plus subsidy, it will be shifting rightward, right, and maintaining the efficient level of output, that is Q star, right. So, the thing is that if you compare what you are getting after subsidy, you are getting socially desirable level of output, and also the price per unit, it has decreased to from P star to PS level, right. So, from this discussion what we are finding that this subsidies is actually helping us to find a greater social efficiency in terms of more output and less price to be charged per unit, right. And therefore, the consumers will be paying the socially efficient price, not more price, not more than that. So, initially what has happened? The consumers, they were paying more price in comparison to this socially efficient level of price, right. And it also may help to change the preference level of the consumers. Why? Because earlier they were forced to pay more, and now for the same they are going to pay less. So, that is why obviously they will be now thinking about to change their preferences and for shifting the green energy sources. Okay. And moreover, here we are saying that we are producing more output and consumers are also encouraged to shift to the renewable form of production. So, that is why that is the advantages of the subsidy that we are providing to this industry. And moreover, the subsidies can also be used a kind as a basis for the tax credits, right. So, that means they can save the tax, the industries they can also save the tax, right. And in this way it will be reducing their tax liability, and obviously it is a positive thing for the industry and the farm. So, what are the likely or potential limitations or issues that we are having in this market based instruments of the subsidy? So, the first thing is that subsidies are funded by the public money in terms of your tax. So, it is very likely that the subsidies can be misused. When the subsidies are misused, then obviously we are saying that public money is wasted, right. And another thing is that if you are saying although this emission for the industries, right, can be reduced, because subsidy is actually is taken as an incentive for reducing the emissions, but the total emissions it may increase. How? The industry may set out some more units of productions, and by that way for a single unit the emissions can be controlled or reduced, but for the industry as a whole this can be increased, right. And moreover, subsidies are argued to be ineffective or inefficient when the subsidy is not encouraging the farms or industry to invest in the R&D activities in order to increase their efficiency, right. As you understand this, when the pollution is more, the industries must actually invest in their R&D activities in order to find out what would be the best practices or best technologies that can be used in order to reduce this pollution level. But in case of the subsidies, this will not be found, and that is why the subsidies can be interpreted as an inefficient instrument for controlling the pollution level. Okay. And sometimes because of this subsidy, it may lead to the shortage of supply of this particular good or services that the farm or industry is producing. So, generally what we have found in our diagrammatic presentation, that the supply would be increased or output production would be increased, but in some cases when the farm is a small one, right, and because of the subsidies output are expanded and the price is lowered. When the price is lowered, then obviously because of the sudden spurts in the demand it may happen, right. So, when the sudden increase in demand happens, then obviously the farm cannot meet the increase in demand. So, it may lead to again inflationary situation or shortage of supply. And moreover, the last but not least, the issues that we are encountering in this mode of instrument subsidy, that it is very difficult to quantify the effectiveness and success of subsidy policy. So far the subsidy is here interpreted as an instrument of public policy. So, in that case we need to actually quantify the success of the subsidy policy, but it is very difficult to quantify, take into account the coverage and scope of the subsidy itself. Okay. So, in our discussion we found the subsidy as an instrument for controlling the pollution level. In the next lecture we will be talking about another form of market based instrument, that is the mixture of tax and subsidy, right. So, there we are going to discuss the deposit refund systems, how it is a kind of hybrid system and it takes into account both the role of the subsidy and the tax, and how this deposit refund system is going to be effective as an instrument in controlling the emission level. Thank you.